Welcome back to Laguna Seca and the famous corkscrew high above the Laguna Seca Raceway, and that's the very top of it right there, and you can see it beautifully by drone, and it's a huge drop. And the car park, of course, where most of the spectators park up and then make their way down to the paddock. Now we turn our centre now to Group 12, our first running of the Jim Hall USRRC Cup grid. And led by car number 4, that's Richard Griot in the McLaren M6A from 1967. And behind him, Greg Hoff in another McLaren M1B from 1966. Followed quickly by Matthew Polk in a Lotus 23C. And Gear Ramleth, another famous name of historic racing here in the US, in car number 21, that's a Lotus 23B as well. So a good field of some 25 cars. Good to see the likes of Charles McCabe, John Fudge, Travis Engen, Kyan Dowling, as well as Paddings Dowling. So obviously families are out and about. Great to have Paddings here in the USA for this Group 12 race. I'm sure he'll be out in other groups as well. And there is the 39, that's 63 Lotus 23B. And as I mentioned, Paddings a winner in the pre-war category at the famous Monaco Historic, of which I've been very privileged to be a part of over the years. And Paddings always a feature at that Monaco Historic, and that really truly is another great historic event. And boy, do they race hard. So we've got a nice combination here of European, these cars made in Europe, the McLarens. Bruce McLaren, of course, the founder from New Zealand, but made, of course, in the UK. But also we've got the crossover, if you will, of the likes of the Huffaker Genies and the Elvers, sort of variations on the theme, so to speak. But the originals, Lotuses, McLarens in full fettle. Brabham as well, a BT8 out there in 1965. So they're forming up the Ray Hall straight and down towards the corkscrew yet again. Look at the 91. There's Matthew Polk in that 65 23C Lotus. Perfect conditions, absolutely glorious. Came down the peninsula yesterday, and again, it was just a lovely day. And it always is a good drive from San Jose or San Francisco. About 2 hours from San Francisco, and about an hour from San Jose. And as you can see, they're forming up now as they go through Rainy and turn 10. Forming up for a rolling start as the pace car does come off. We are about to go racing for our 1963 to 1968 sports cars. A nice group led by the papired, appropriately coloured McLaren. Interesting, Zach Brown doesn't race those, although I have seen him race a similar car, a Can-Am car, a couple of years ago here. Green flag waves then for our Jim Hall USRRC Cup Race 1. Alongside me once again, Kev Harris, and we've got you up in the booth. It's good to see you.
Yeah, Johnny, here we go then. I have run up to the booth to come and say hello. I thought I'd get out of the California sunshine for a moment or two. And you mentioned Zach Brown. Of course, we had a great chat
what
with
happened,
him.
do you know?
I was so busy chatting to him. He went out on track, and I don't know how he got on because I was whisked off to go and speak to...
Well, he stopped outside here.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he literally parked it on the outside of the first kink, as it were, the first corner here. So on the main straight.
Well, we'll find out what happened because he's racing a little bit later on as well. We'll hopefully get another word with him over the course of the weekend. He's a very busy man always, but he loves his historics. He's got his 1980 FW07 Williams is going out a bit later on. I think there's a BMW of some type as well that I've seen in the United Autosports garage down there, so he's probably going to take that out as well. But look at this one then, Johnny, Group 12. Another set of classic race cars that look just fantastic against the Californian sky and the backdrop here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. What a shot that is, by the way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The drone really, you finally see the drop-off, which you never, I mean, years ago when I first started tuning in to watching races at Laguna, you never saw that drop-off. So you knew there was distance there, but you never realized. In fact, if you drop down there, I think it's because this was an original army base before it became a circuit. And they used to have a shooting range down there, so they were always warding people off, saying, well, we don't want you to go down there. There might be still some live bullets. So, you know, be careful. And you didn't want to go straight on at the corkscrew because you might have ended up in the old shooting range. So
yeah, exactly. Great aerial shot as well. That's where I was, just down on the left.
Yeah.
That's the pre-grid area in the bottom right of your screen now. Then coming on the straightaway that's past our commentary position here. Who've we got in that yellow car? Absolutely letting the hammer down. Looks like he's got the DRS, doesn't it?
Yeah, he just bolted out of the way. That's AC Augustin in the Huffaker Genie Mark 10B. But boy, he's got some straight line speed. I'll give him that.
He has.
Great for you to talk to Townsend Bell. I was wondering when I saw him on the entry list, I kept thinking to myself, isn't that an Indy race? Doesn't he have to be with Lee Diffie at some point this weekend? And I was right.
Yeah, I think he's whizzing off. But those two guys down there, Bill and Townsend, are having the time of their lives. Their first time at the Rolex, and they're absolutely loving it. So we're going to see him again here for sure.
Strikes me that Townsend, when he's done with racing or commentating, he'll spend...
he will definitely be involved. We're going to see him at Historics more and more. They've got the bug after only the first few days, that's for sure. So as we look at this one then, we've got Group 12 out on track, and that is our man, that number 17 car. He just put himself in third. That's the Huffaker Genie then of AC D'Augustin. And Mr. Griot's out in front, though, car number 4. But doesn't that one in the lovely yellow livery look super as it just drops down through the corkscrew?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's great to have you, Kev, but you know what? How about Jim Hall Jr. for this group to join us here? Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, guys. What a beautiful day and a gorgeous track, and you guys have awesome cars here. I'm so excited to be here.
You can't say it's not original. You can't say it's not original when we have a group called the Jim Hall Group, Group 12, sorry, and Junior comes and joins us. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on this event and being represented this way.
It's a wonderful honor to my father. As you guys know, he was very creative in his race cars, and one of the things that's interesting to talk to him now today is that he loved testing the cars all the time, and he said, my cars may have broke down more than fully tested, but as soon as I had a new idea, I wanted to try it in a race and on the track. And of course, you guys know we had Rattlesnake Raceway. They could do a little development
here.
Where
was that?
It's in Midland, Texas.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Because I've always thought, because I live in Texas myself, and when I heard about Jim Hall from Chaparral, from Texas, I was like, really? What race? It's quite not obscure, but it's not the natural. You know, California, definitely. You expect them
The
to be
first Chaparral one was built by Troutzman and Barn in Southern California, but he, through his father and through his older brother, became an oil man, is where he made most of it. There we go.
That's the 167 getting around. That's Kyan Dowling, actually, in that 23B. Parked up, that could cause...
hopefully he'll get going. Go on. Yes, he's close.
So now, when you say Midland and oil, now it makes sense.
Yeah, so he and Hap Sharp became very good friends. They both were in the oil business. Sharp was drilling, Dad was producing, and I'm glad he's back going and was careful to re-enter the track. I taught people to drive on the racetrack for almost 40 years in Oxnard, California. My landlord being Gene Haas the last 15 years. So this is exciting. This is one of my favorite tracks. The weather couldn't be more perfect. We could rub it in for most of the rest of the world. That we got English weather here on a summer day.
No kidding. I'll tell you what amazes me as an Englishman watching sort of all these many European race cars, amalgamated, of course, with the American cars, but just the reverence that Americans have for historic racing. As I said, living in Texas, I'm just amazed at the amount of imported cars. You'd expect California, as manufacturers imported cars, to sell here back in the 60s, but in some of the more obscure parts of America, I am just stunned by the amount of MGs, Lolas, you name it, Chevrons, McLarens. We're under safety. But does it amaze you, or is that just the way of motorsport in America?
Well, I don't know if you know, when Dad graduated from Caltech, he went to work at Carroll Shelby in Dallas. And Dad's older brother was a partner there, and they were bringing in Lister Jags and Maseratis and Ferraris and all that. And that was to the oil man, the bankers, the ranchers. And Carroll, as you know, was a very, very good salesman. And he would say, you know, I got this young kid just out of college. He can barely drive. Why don't I sell you this car and he'll show you what it can do this weekend? And Dad would get in and go do very well. And he was a little bit inexperienced, but a little bit not. And then the guy would say, yeah, my car can win, and buy another one. You know, so it was an interesting, you know, like you said, California was the hub, but it was Dallas was an interesting part of that.
No question. Well, I grew up in Dallas too. Greg Hoff went to college there. Greg Hoff in that McLaren M1B.
I was born in Dallas. I can say y'all, even though I'm a Californian.
Oh, we can both say y'all. Well, you'll know where SMU is then.
And I live in Ventura,
all right,
which is also just like this, very lovely.
So I'm hazard to guess that you didn't get thrown a basketball or a golf club. You kind of amalgamated into the whole business at some point.
I did, but Dad wanted me to more be an engineer or team manager or whatever, because in that era, 50s and 60s, he had some horrifying accidents, and many of his compatriots did too. So he would have rather me not been a racer. But I've enjoyed it, and I've been safe, and of course the tracks and the cars are immensely better now.
Is there an era or a car or a mark that you particularly
Well, I love the Chaparral we bought here, the 64, 65 car. It won 22 races over the 2 years in USRRC. Besides that, my personal favorite are all different Porsches, and I am spoiled and have an electric Porsche. I have a GT3. I was just up here 2 weeks ago tracking my GT3. I have a Cup car that I just drove at Pikes Peak Hill Climb. So the other mark besides Chevys that I love are Porsches. Porsche does such a beautiful job. I've known Patrick Long since he was 6 or 7. One of the really famous Porsche people that's here.
Porsche, you know, I mentioned all the Brits that came over early, and we talked about the Jaguars, and obviously we're looking at Lotuses and McLarens out here. But Porsche definitely, as the German manufacturer, jumped the mark on everybody else, coming to the States and becoming known and well known, and bought 356s in movies and so on and so forth. James Dean, you know, so on and so forth. They certainly made a mark very quickly in the USA, didn't they?
They did, and they've continued to just come out with amazing cars. Of course, another car that, for me, that was important was the Lolas with Eric Broadley. We had a fabulous relationship with him in Can-Am, in Formula 5000, and then he made us an Indy car for Al Unser for the 78 Indy 500, and we were fortunate enough to win the Triple Crown, the only time that was ever done in his very first, you know, of that era Indy car. So Jim Chapman and Davey Evans and all those guys I worked with as a Gopher growing up, and they did a fabulous, Lola did a fabulous job in 3 different eras for us. Uh-oh.
Yep.
He's slowing down. Is that the same?
I think it is, yeah.
Oh, no, it doesn't have the 1. It's 67.
Oh, that's 67.
Wow. 167.
Let me see where that is.
So, this is, look at this day. Look at these great cars out there. And I'm honored to be here. I'm hanging out at our booth as much as I can. Different thing, I just went to talk to the McMurtry Sperling guys. Yeah. And of course, you know, the Chaparral 2J. And I'm looking forward to
Didn't they win the hill climb last week?
They broke the record, yeah.
Killed it,
yeah, with Max Chilton. So.
That's a pretty handy young driver.
Yeah, and then they're going to have both cars on track tomorrow at 11:50. So they're going to be on the full track tomorrow. So
you know, it's interesting. You mentioned Eric Broadley, and you know, I think of some of the designers. You know, obviously Colin Chapman, and more up to date Adrian Newey. But these are rare men.
When I've talked to Adrian at at Goodwood Hill Climb, he says, of course, my dad is one of his heroes. So yeah, Adrian. So and I love going to Goodwood. The hill climb is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, people forget that Adrian Newey, of course, kind of cut his teeth here in the States in Indy back in the day, and what he's designing, or what he most recently designed, and the sort of downforce cars he was well aware of back in the day. So some nice little racing here between the 69 and the 39. The 69 being Malcolm Ross in that 23B, and the 39 chasing him down at the moment anyway is Padding Dowling, of course, who we spoke about earlier. And I believe that's his son, Padding.
Of course, I wish we were on track with them, but it's nice to be here anyway and watching and enjoying.
So if this event started in 1974, how many of these events have you attended and been part of?
I've tried, anytime there's a chaparral here, I've attended, and sometimes not. And I got to drive one year a little Lotus Elite lease a friend of mine had out of the Bay Area, and I got to drive in one of them. And then we've done demonstrations. I don't know if you were here in 2005. We had 7 chaparrals here, and we took most of them on track with Phil Hill, Dad, myself, Uncle Chuck, and Vic Helfer.
Oh, yeah. Sadly, we lost him, of course.
Yes. Quick Vic.
Quick Vic.
He and I one year got to share the 2J at the hill climb. And he was like, Jim, I thought this was my car. I said, well, it is usually, but I want my son to try it too. So yeah, Vic did a great job for us. So first in Trans Am in 1970, and he won Watkins Glen, and then, of course, in the vacuum chaparral.
Is there one particular innovation Chaparral developed, grew, innovated, that you would say stands out from your father's point of view?
I would say DRS, front and rear wing.
Dear.
In 1966. Good to not hit each other.
Yeah, I'm glad about that.
That was good. Good driving. Look ahead, think ahead.
Yes, no kidding. 121, that's Sam McCord in the Huffaker Genie Mark IV. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. That's totally fine.
So tell me more.
So, yeah, I mean, think about it, that a hidden front wing, rear wing DRS, foot pedal operated in 1966, 67, really? 68, yeah. And
so
the front,
effectively a forerunner to what we see in Formula One today.
Right.
Wow.
But the balance was easier because the front wing was inside the bodywork with the front radiator. And so you could actively pressure the front and rear together.
That is. And was it seen deemed as legal everywhere, or?
Oh, it became illegal, like most things. Most things Dad did.
Yeah. Well, that's motor racing.
Oh,
Isn't
it is.
I mean, people say, "Oh, that's cheating," and it's like, no, that's what we call innovation. The beauty of motorsport is you're pushing the rules to the very limit. We have the white flag out. So, but yeah, you're pushing the rules to the very end, because sometimes going over it, and if you get caught, you get caught. But that's the game. You've just got to try and be quicker than the guys behind you. Yeah, that was that Huffaker that turned around there. Was the Harry Genie?
Another second generation. Huffaker does some great stuff.
Yep.
So.
And of course, he too, one of the great innovators from American racing.
Right.
The name
I think
Huffaker.
They're up at Sonoma Raceway, if I'm right. So they do some great innovation.
And have been around doing this sort of stuff for forever and a day. Here's your leader.
Doesn't that McLaren look good?
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. And it's great to have the CEO here to watch it as well. He broke down in his Jaguar a few moments ago.
Zach Brown started his career at my kart track in Oxnard.
Did he?
He was on a game show, won $3,000, bought a go-kart, took it to my track. So
wow, what a great story.
So
I hadn't realized that he won
since he was about, I think that he was probably 16, 17. So.
And he's, I was saying earlier, I wouldn't want to be Lando or Oscar because he's a pretty handy driver. And I wouldn't want to argue driving with him.
And he loves it, as you can see. And he's talking, I think, with Tom Christensen of doing something together in the near future.
Wonderful.
So, isn't that amazing?
Absolutely. And I was saying
he loves
earlier,
it. I mean, he runs at Long Beach. He loves the Trans Am cars. Of course, I think he brought 3 cars here, if I'm right.
Yeah, he's brought that Williams that he's in today many times. He's also bought some Le Mans cars as well. And ironically, it's only about 2 years ago I finally saw him in a McLaren Can-Am car.
He's got quite a collection. So He's done very well for himself, and McLaren's really on an up right now. Aren't they?
I can't believe the turnaround in the amount of time.
And those guys, both those drivers are sets talents. So we got to finish.
We do, and of course, it's no surprise that Richard Grillo, who took the lead early on from the start, from the front row and from the pole in his M6A McLaren from 1967, takes the win ahead of Greg Hoff and AC De Agostine in third place. Well, thank you so much.
Honored to be here. Very cool. They named the appropriate classes, the different drivers.
I think it's lovely.
And, you know, it's a small world. John Morton's class, he used to race go-karts with me at my track, and I've known him forever. He's such a nice guy, and it's great to see the name classes. So look at this day.
I know. Beautiful. Well, you're listening to Jim Hall Jr., the son of course, the man we are absolutely in reverence of today, and many years of his fantastic career, Jim Hall.
I'm sure Dad is thrilled for all you guys and everyone loving and appreciating and enjoying the cars safely today. So we'll continue that. I look forward to it. And
come join us anytime in the weekend. Yeah, good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. We'll take a short break here from Laguna Seca, but why? It doesn't get any better than that. Jim Hall Jr. joining us here in the booth. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back from Laguna.